on 9/11?
It's amazing.
Amazing, incredible, pick your word. For the third time today, it's reminiscent of those pictures we've all seen too much on television before, when a building was deliberately destroyed by well-placed dynamite to knock it down.
Looks like a controlled demolition.
I mean, is it?
One of us are demolition experts. Yeah. Is it not possible that if it was collapsed as a controlled demolition, that it just happened to be the same day?
So are you conspiracists, is what you're saying?
Bob Tuskin here. The anniversary for 9/11 is coming up, so we've decided to take it to the streets of the University of Florida campus and ask people what this 47-story building falling in free fall speed looks like to them. This is what we're going to call the Building 7 Challenge. Do you know about Building 7?
I never heard about Building 7. I'd like to know more about it.
Can I just show you a quick footage, and I'll show you what we're doing for the sake of your investigation.
Well, it's not an investigation. We're just
incident report or whatever you want to use this as.
You know what? It's not a report. I'm going to give you my incident number so you can know who I am.
Awesome. I appreciate it.
That's my last card.
Uh-oh.
My name on it too. And
all right, cool, guys. So what we've been doing out here is what we call the Building 7 Challenge. And we're asking people to simply watch the footage of this building's collapse and describe to us what it looks like to them. That's the basic principle of this, and you can see we have the graphics here. So here's the building standing, and there's its collapse.
So it looks like we have a building over here that's being demolished.
Yeah, can you kind of describe the nature of its collapse, perhaps?
Looks like it got blown up. I'm gonna have to say it was sabotage. They must have been sabotaged.
Like a controlled demolition?
I agree.
It just looks like the building is falling into the earth, basically, because you don't see the rubble going anywhere.
So it could be a detonation of somebody's breaking down an old building and trying to build a new one?
So a controlled demolition?
Could be, sure.
Well, it's just, oh wow, that's really fast and that's really powerful.
Care to guess how a building like that collapses in such a fast fashion in free fall speed? That's a 47-story building, and there it goes again, 6 seconds in its own footprint.
It looks like it's an inner demolition.
Like a controlled demolition?
Yeah.
It looks like it got blown up from under it. I don't know.
Blown up bombs?
Yeah, that's what it looks like. It looks like someone had like a demolition team or something.
What do you think could bring down a building in that fashion?
I mean, it looks like controlled demolition.
Just tell me, what do you see there?
It looks like a building's collapsing.
And what do you think could cause a collapse of that proportion?
Detonation from bombs.
Okay, tell me, how do you think that building collapsed?
I don't know, could have been maybe bombs, you know, at the lower level.
Yeah. Why is it collapsing in that fashion? Any idea?
Well, I could probably say that it was caused by some form of TNT.
Like a demolition?
Yeah.
Hey guys, I got a quick challenge for all of you. It'll only take 6 seconds. What happened with Building 7?
Blew up.
Did you know this building fell on September 11th, 2001?
Yeah, it's the Twin Towers, right? Or
well, this is actually Building 7. This was the third tower that fell.
Yeah, I've heard many theories about demolitions rather than the plane crash.
Do you believe the NIST report and the government's official story that office fires were able to create a demolition of this fashion?
Well, personally, I'm an engineering major, so I kind of look into this type of stuff, and my own opinion is, you know, it could be inner, but, you know, we never know for sure, but there is a possibility that it's an inner work.
So it's a controlled demolition. Sabotage. Do you know when this building fell?
No, I don't.
It was September 11, 2001 at 5:20 in the afternoon in New York City. Never hit by an airplane. Don't you think Hillary Clinton and maybe other folks in Congress and elsewhere should get behind a new investigation that thoroughly explains what happened here?
Well, again, I'm not a representative of the campaign. I'm just a volunteer. But I think that this is something that would cause alarm for a lot of people. And I think it's unfortunate that we as students aren't more aware of these kind of issues that are happening. And so, you know, I actually really appreciate this project, and I think that this is something that a lot of people need to get more behind, is what's happening in our country and being more aware. And that's part of the reason why I joined the Hillary Clinton campaign.
Heeft er nooit van gehoord.
Zijn reactie op de beelden die we laten zien is onbevangen.
Zie je vanaf boven gaan? Nee, je gaat vanaf onder.
Die gaat vanaf onder, ja.
Toch?
Ja.
Ze hebben gewoon kolommen weggeblazen. Ze is nagesprongen.
Dit valt anders dan het World Trade Center.
Vind je niet dan?
Ja, je ziet het. De onderste verdiepingen gaan eerst.
Ja, en de rest zakt er gewoon in. Dus dit is controlled demolition.
Zeker weten.
Zeker weten. Dat is nagesprongen.
Did you know that a third tower fell on 9/11? At approximately 5:20 p.m. on September 11, 2001, World Trade Center Building 7 collapsed in 6.5 seconds from normal office fires, according to the government's final report.
World Trade Center 7 collapsed because of fires fueled by office furnishings. It did not collapse from explosives or from fuel oil fires.
Later, the government finally admitted that Building 7 collapsed at the rate of freefall after trying to deny it. So what's wrong with a building in freefall? What is freefall?
It's just like taking your car keys out and just dropping them. That's how fast the building came down, for over 100 feet.
This is high school physics.
A building cannot do free fall with 40,000 tons of structural steel in its structural system without it being blown up.
The only way that a building can accelerate as it collapses is by having pre-engineered, precisely timed, and precisely placed explosives. In other words, controlled demolition.
Normal office fires not only dropped a steel-framed skyscraper for the first time in history, and did so at freefall, according to the government's report. They also burned hot enough to create the molten metal observed at Ground Zero.
You'd get down below and you'd see molten steel running down the channel rails, like you're in a foundry.
In an office fire, you cannot generate enough heat to melt steel.
So if you have a flame at 750 degrees, you can hold that flame under a steel beam forever, and you'll never reach a high enough temperature to bend steel, let alone melt it.
First of all, let's go back to your basic premise that there was a pool of molten steel.
Like lava.
Like lava from a volcano.
I know of absolutely nobody, no eyewitness who said so, nobody who's produced it.
John Gross categorically denied their observations. He not only ignored evidence, he denied evidence.
The government acknowledged that Building 7's collapse was unprecedented. Engineers were also stunned. Yet somehow, news networks and many others knew it was going to happen. CNN reported the collapse an hour before it happened.
We are getting information now that one of the other buildings, Building 7 in the World Trade Center complex, is on fire and has either collapsed or is collapsing.
And a few blocks away,
Keep your eye on that building, it'll be coming down. The building is about to blow up. Move it back.
Now, more on the latest building collapse in New York.
The BBC even reported the collapse in detail live from New York over 20 minutes before it happened, with Building 7 still standing in the background. Immediately after Building 7's collapse, FDNY Lieutenant David Restuccio had this to say.
We had heard reports that the building was unstable and that it eventually would either come down on its own or it would be taken down.
CBS veteran anchorman Dan Rather and others also had their first impressions, which were only broadcast on that tragic day.
For the third time today, it's reminiscent of those pictures we've all seen too much on television before, when a building was deliberately destroyed by well-placed dynamite to knock it down.
And I turned in time to see what looked like a skyscraper implosion. It looked like it had been done by a demolition crew. The whole thing just collapsing down on itself.
You don't need to be an engineer or an architect to see what happened to those buildings.
The most obvious hypothesis for anyone looking at the films is that the buildings came down because there was very carefully controlled demolition with high explosives that had been planted weeks, if not months, before.
9/11 claimed thousands of lives and touched millions more. It led us into 2 wars and was used to scale back our civil liberties and invade our privacy. But many people are beginning to question what we were told, and we are demanding answers. So how do we do it? We find our own voices and then we raise them together.
Er is bij een hydrant
there's been fear, but there's been no justice for the people who were killed on that day. We must have an inquiry to find out what really happened.
The official accounts of 9/11 are false.
This is so important that you've got to put your usual sources on hold for a while.
You take it slowly, just slowly digest it, slowly accept it.
When the most likely hypothesis in the case of Building 7 wasn't even mentioned.
They didn't talk about Building 7. Nobody mentioned it. And it wasn't hit by planes. So why did it go down?
What I want to persuade you to do is look into it, right? And make up your own mind.
Rethink 9/11.
Rethink 9/11!
Perth Australia supports
Rethink 9/11!
Join us and millions around the world who are now learning about the evidence and uniting to rethink 9/11.